I get questions all the time from people who are just starting out filmmaking asking me, what do I need to buy when I'm starting out? And if anyone ever tries to tell you you don't need any equipment to start, that's obviously a lie, because right off the bat you need a camera. But I've nailed it down to 5 things you absolutely need when starting out. So I'm going to share those 5 things with you now with 3 different budget levels depending on how much money you have to spend. So without further ado, let's get into it. The first thing you absolutely need is a camera. I already kind of said this, but I want to delve into it a little bit more. The ability to capture video is quite literally essential to filmmaking. So for the low budget option, you can use a phone. iPhone and Android filmmaking are getting much better, but they're still not as good as an actual DSLR or mirrorless camera. But with that being said, you cannot let that stop you from starting. Not only are phones a great budget-friendly way to get started in filmmaking, but most people already have one, so it's a no-brainer. For someone with an intermediate budget, I would recommend a Sony a6300 or a Canon M50. I personally own an a6300 and I've used it for a very long time now. Both of these cameras are around $500, have 4K capabilities, and the ability to use an external microphone on the camera. And while these cameras might not be full frame or have the best autofocus or have all the bells and whistles, they're great starter cameras and they're perfect for the price and great for starting out. If you have a decent amount of money to spend, you can opt to get something like what I'm filming with right now, the a7S III. And even though I'm definitely biased to Sony, you could easily get something like a higher end Canon camera, Blackmagic, maybe not Nikon, but you know. These are those cameras in the $2,000 to $4,000 range that are going to give you, above all else, a better dynamic range, better autofocus, and a couple more features. Not necessary, but definitely worth the investment. The second filmmaking necessity is your audio gear, more specifically a microphone. Audio, as the name suggests, is half of the audio-visual experience, and a lot of people overlook this and focus more on the visual aspect of film. But studies show that people are much more willing to watch a film that has really bad visuals but good audio as opposed to bad audio and good visuals. On the lower budget option, we have the Rode Video Micro, or really any lavalier or shotgun mic that can plug into your phone. While these microphones do not provide the best audio quality by any means, they are much better than the in-camera audio coming from your DSLR or iPhone. Next up, we have on-camera shotgun mics like the Rode Video Mic Pro. On-camera shotgun mics like this one will run you around $100 to $200. I personally use these all the time for my events, and I'm even using one right now for backup audio in case this mic messes up. This is great for anything where you're talking directly to the camera or where you just don't have enough money to spend it on the higher budget options, which we'll get to in a minute. The downsides to relying on a microphone like this is that if your subject isn't facing the camera, you might not be able to hear them very well. But there's a lot you can do to minimize those downsides. And finally, if you have a little bit more money to spend, you can get something like a Rode NTG2 or any boom mic or wireless lav mic for that matter. Wireless lav mics or boom mics like this are going to set you back about $200 to $400 depending on which one you get, but there's a couple things that you have to take note of as well. For boom mics, you're going to have to drop another $100 for an audio recorder, get an XLR cable, and obviously a boom pole. And while boom mics are really great and very versatile for a lot of different scenes, if you're manning the camera, you're absolutely going to have someone manning the boom mic. Up third, we have stabilization. Stabilization ranges from tripods that keep the camera static and still, all the way up to gimbals and steadicams that make the moving shots really smooth. On the low budget end of the spectrum, we have an Amazon Basics tripod. This is the cheapest tripod I know of, and honestly, it does its job pretty well. You have to be super careful with it though, because it's very lightweight and it can topple over very easily. The other problem with the Amazon Basics tripod is you're not going to get smooth panning and tilting movements at all. Going up to the mid-level, we have fluid head tripods. Fluid head tripods can range anywhere from $200 to upwards of $1,000 or more depending on the quality you get. The benefit of having a fluid head like the one I'm filming on right now is that you can pan and tilt very smoothly. Of course, in addition to having a perfectly static shot. And while this doesn't allow you to move the camera smoothly in 3D space, it's a great budget-friendly option that covers most of the bases. And finally, at the higher budget option, we have gimbals. Gimbals are actually relatively cheap at this point, but I put them at the higher level option because you don't really need them if you're not moving the camera around. Some great options that I can recommend for gimbals are brands like DJI's Ronin lineup or anything from Zhiyun. To be honest, most 3-axis stabilizers and gimbals are all kind of the same, so I wouldn't spend too much on them, but they are a very good tool to have in order to move the camera smoothly. Coming in at number 4, we have editing software. Starting off on the lower budget option, we have free editing softwares like iMovie, which comes on all Apple computers and laptops, and DaVinci Resolve, which you can download for free. These are great starter options, but aside aside from DaVinci Resolve, I would seriously recommend investing and learning in an advanced editing program like the ones I'm about to mention. iMovie and phone editing apps like CapCut are going to really limit your abilities as a filmmaker, and it's important to start learning an editing program that you're going to get used to over time now. For our mid-tier option, we have Final Cut Pro. Final Cut Pro is a few $100, and one of the downsides to it is that you can only use it if you have an Apple product, but the upside is you can do a lot more with most of the free editing products out there, and once you pay, you get all the free updates for life. Our higher level option is the Adobe Creative Cloud Suite. There's some great low price packages for students out there, but unfortunately it is pretty expensive if you're just buying it monthly. However, it is basically the industry standard for video editing. The vast majority of video editors, especially pros, are using Premiere Pro and After Effects. So for that reason, it's very worthwhile to learn, and in my opinion, very much worth the investment. So there's one more necessity that I say you need as a filmmaker, and this one might surprise you. Number 5 is books. Books, and really anything that gives you more knowledge on the industry and filmmaking in of itself, is going to really help you in your career. I am pretty much completely self-taught on books and YouTube videos. For a relatively low price, books provide a lot of knowledge that can seriously help you in your career. You can learn about pretty much anything from the history of the filmmaking industry to how to use manual controls on your camera. It's all there. So on the low budget option, we have YouTube videos. YouTube videos are completely free to watch, although obviously you pay with your data. But aside from that, you can get some seriously great knowledge from a lot of the greatest filmmakers out there. There is so much filmmaking knowledge on YouTube, it's insane. If you have a little bit of money to blow, I would recommend getting some filmmaking books. Some good starter options are the Filmmaker's Handbook, How to Shoot Video That Doesn't Suck, Filmmaking for Dummies, all great options to begin with. Another thing you can do is get things like autobiographies, where you can sort of see the life of these great filmmakers and how they managed to build this career from the ground up. On the higher budget option, we have filmmaking courses. Things like Full-Time Filmmaker or any of the masterclass courses would fall into this category. While I haven't personally taken too many filmmaking courses, these are curated video courses that have been produced by industry professionals and really perfected to tailor it to you. And while some of them get really pricey, I mean, some of them are very, very pricey, if you have the money, it's definitely worth the investment. And those are the 5 things you'll need to start getting into filmmaking. I think when you're first starting out, I felt this a lot. It's very overwhelming, the amount of equipment and knowledge that you feel like you need to know to get started, but it can get to a point where it becomes debilitating. The best way to start is to start with the bare minimum and build that from the ground up. Your first few films are not going to be great at all, I promise. But starting small and slowly building your way up is the way to go. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Please like this video and subscribe down below. New videos coming out every Wednesday. And if you have a suggestion for what you want to see next, please leave a comment. But for real, I hope this was helpful in some way, and once again, thank you so much for watching. Peace out.